Right, guys, sorry this one took so long to edit. I mean, the unedited version's been on the channel for probably about 2 weeks before I've actually got round to doing the edited version for everyone. So if you want to see these class guides in depth, I think this one's about 2.5 hours long, roughly. Obviously, I've edited it down massively just to make it more digestible. But if you want to actually see the entire thing, then join the channel as a member. All of these class guides completely unedited. So far there's Feral DPS, Feral Tank, Warlock, Prot Warrior. I feel like I'm missing one, but you know, there's loads of unedited footage that only members get to see, basically. So, as I say, make sure you join the channel. Other than that, make sure you like, subscribe, and let's get into the tank guide featuring Toren. So, the first section we're going to look at talents. I'll keep nipping backwards and forwards, you know, just to give you my thoughts on any of this, but largely I'm just going to let it run, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so for those obviously watching back on YouTube when it's edited, obviously we're going to fly through these talents, because if you want a more sort of in-depth look at the talents and why you're taking them, then watch the Feral DPS video, because not really a lot changes. You know, as in my Druid, I'll show you my Druid Spec in a minute. I'm using a spec basically which I can PvE, PvP as DPS or tank in PvE. By the way, I've built a spec quite similar to what we spoke about on the Feral DPS one. It's not going to work in tier 6, but in tier 4 it's perfectly viable, and trust me, yeah, you can do all three with it. So we will have a little look at that later. But let's go then, Toren. So for a tank, purely tank, you're not interested in really anything else. What are we going with?
Well, definitely 5 points into ferocity, and that leaves us to another tier where we can take I think 3 points. Just a moment, I have the classic talents up. Okay, I've got TBC ones. So ferocity, 5 points, then 3 points in feral instincts to get more threats on you, which is understandable and self-explainable. Then thick height, 1 to 3 points. I probably just take 3 points in it. Feral charge, 1 point. Feral swiftness, you get 4% dodge for your bear, not the movement speed for the bear, but still the 4% dodge, really nice. Then you also want to get sharpened claws. Just more critical strike means more threats, and you just want to take it. Then Primal Fury, which is increasing
probably worth mentioning more rage as well, isn't it, when you crit as well?
Yes, exactly. And that's from Primal Fury. That's when you crit, you get 5 rage. And that also means that Feral Druid never ever has issues with rage, as Warrior Tank might have. He just have rage constantly. That's why he's also one of the best off tanks, since he doesn't need to be hit and he still can have a shit ton of rage. Then predatory strikes, again, you take them because it's just flat out armor attack power. Moving on, we got Fairy Fire. You want to take it even if you have a Boomkin in the raid and he's gonna use his Fairy Fire, but you still want to have something range in your form, so you don't have to like pop up into human form and do Brath, Moonfire or Starfire. It's something ranged, it helps. If the Boomkin dies, you wanna have Fairy Fire, so definitely take that. Then Heart of the Wild, no-brainer, get shit ton of stats for your old forms, so no-brainer. Survival of the Fittest, also all attributes, and then it also reduces the chance you'll be critically hit by melee attacks by 3% in the end. So that's really great, because you need 5.6% crit reduction to not be crit hit from a boss. So this one gives you 3%, so more than half of it, which you need. Really great. Then Leader of the Pack increases 5% crit for you and whole your party. Really good. Take it. Improved Leader of the Pack is a healing mechanism, so you can get actually quite a lot of healing out of it. It is definitely worth it. As Scott mentioned, right now in Karazhan, his fellow Druid has 19k HP, and you can heal for 4% of that every 6 seconds. And more or less it is every 6 seconds, because 6 seconds is the internal cooldown of it, and you need to crit, but because you have like 50% crit more or less, you're gonna be critting every time on the cooldown of it, so you're gonna get a lot of healing out of it. Really good. Then Primal Tenacity, it's resisting stun and fear. It might help you. I would definitely put at least 1 point there, so you have at least that 5% chance instead of 0% chance to resist fears and stuns, like for example Nightbane, the fears. or on Archmont. Of course, there are more reliable ways as Fear Ward or Dispel, but it's still something that can help you, can preserve the fear ward. Then the Predatory Instincts, it also helps you a lot because it helps with the threat, and also chance to avoid area attacks. So if there is something, it's also no-brainer not really to think about it. The Mangle, really great thing. Maybe just something to think about. The Cat 4 Mangle has no cooldown, but the Bear Mangle has 6-second cooldown. So there might be a possibility that the debuff won't be up all the time because you might like miss or dodge. So just keep that in mind. And then we move on to Restoration 1. Restoration 3, you'd want to get Furor, even if you are not power shifting. If you shift into bear form, you still want to get that 10 rage out of the beginning, so definitely take that. Then Naturalist, because it's increasing the damage of all your forms by 10%, so that also increases your threat. Nature Shapeshifter is more of a possibility, not really a necessity. So I would maybe not, it's not required, so let me put it like that. And then Omen of Clarity, there's also another thing which helps you greatly when you are off-tanking and you are not being hit, and you might kind of be rage-starved. Omen of Clarity is something that's gonna even further help you with rage and being full on your resources. So that is something which you have to get. And rest is pretty much just something what you might get based on your preferences.
So I think what I would probably do as well, based on preferences, if you agree, is like the Primal Tenacity. So we put 1 point in it. Yeah, like you said, it's nice, but you've got Fear Wards, you've got Tremor Totem, blah blah blah. So if we was to take one out of there for now, because it's probably not like putting one in it is probably not required. It's not a necessity, but a nice to have. Whereas the rest, there's nothing else in here that you would physically want to remove. Before we just carry on, so Griff, you found the Savage Fury change. Please share. What's this? 2.0.1. Savage Fury no longer affects Mangle Bear. No longer applies to Maul or Swipe. So basically, it was actually changed. If we get a pre-patch and we went in at 2.0, we might get it. Is what we're saying. In 2.4, it doesn't affect Bear. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute, CO. But thank you for finding that, Griff. Really appreciate it. Okay, so what I would actually say then there as well is Savage Fury for pure Bear required? Is there anywhere else we could potentially put those 2 points? There's not really, is there? Oh, yeah, there is. We could put the 2 to get the reduced cost of Lacerate by 2, couldn't we?
Oh, the shredding attacks decreases the Lacerate cost?
Yeah, by 2. So that's actually going to be more valuable for Savage Fury, swapping those 2 round. So, I mean, that then we would say, I think, is everything you need to be able to tank current like bare bones CO. We're going to get to intensity because obviously it gives you 10 rage. You get 4 the first. Yeah, it's one of those where the first point's the most valuable. But there's nothing that we've missed. What about intensity that CO brought up to get that 10 rage when you use in rage? How useful is that?
It is. It can help. It is helpful, but I would say it's more helpful on like low gear and like maybe low skill druid, where you just get like a bit more rage to help you when you're off tanking. So it can be helpful. It is something what actually directly like helps your tank, and like it's not like if you're gonna just DPS. So yeah, it can help, but it is not really needed, especially if you main tank. You are not gonna use it. Because you just have that much rage. You are not rage starved at all.
But also, if I remember rightly, you are actually then trading it for armor, aren't you? So your base armor then goes down by 27% when you use it. So you're reducing your base armor by 27% to gain 10 rage. I mean, ideally, you don't probably want to be using in rage that much while you're main tanking. It probably still is more of an off tanking ability, isn't it?
Well, you can always cancel debuff and like get rid of it. Like from intensity, you get the jump 10 rage. Without talents, you wouldn't get it. and then you just completely skip up the other part, which is the basic part of the enrage, and that is like over time it increases your, well, not increases, but replenishes your rage. So with intensity, you can actually like cancel debuff it and get to 10 rage at least for no really downside.
But anyway, yeah, it's neither in or there at the moment. You know, for what we're doing, the 3 points for 10 rage is, you know, could be useful. What we're saying is it could be useful even if you was using it, you know, as an off tank, build some more rage, like Toren said. But I think there's not really that many places to actually use these points anyway, so we may just end up getting it. But so Toren, where would we go then? We've got 8 points left.
I would possibly take the Nurturing Instincts, which increases your healing based on your agility, and you're gonna end up with a lot, and I mean really loads of agility. So the thing you can do is, before the pull, you just hop into your human form and cast Regrowth on yourself. And while you have more bonus healing, you get a heal on yourself, you get a hot on yourself for 20 seconds, and that also increases your threat because you are healing someone, and that someone is actually used, so it also helps the healers to get you.
So why wouldn't you take 5 of 5 when you've not always got a warrior? I know you mentioned this earlier and said you wouldn't use it even without a warrior because, you know, you feel like it's a waste of a global, but is that literally the only reason why you wouldn't take it, or?
Well, it's also 5 points, and I would much rather have like some utility forward my cat form or like my PvP talents than this. But yeah, of course, if for example your guild is struggling and your tanks are getting smacked, definitely take it. It's something which you can like really adjust to your raid environment.
You know, ideally you want this bare minimum. Now you've got 6 points to do whatever you want with. If you're in charge of keeping your, bloody demo roar up, keep it up. And take the 5 of 5. Obviously you would, which will then leave you with 1 point, which you might go down the route of putting that in Primal Tenacity. So now you get that 5% stun resist. I can't see anywhere else worth putting it. If you're not needing that, maybe you want to go into PvP talents. I mean, Toren, what would you go? Maybe like 2 in Brutal Impact and then maybe pick up 1 in Nature's Grasp. You've still got 3 points left.
Yeah, and then definitely you want to take the mangle damage, because even in PvP you are rarely in a bear form. Like, of course you can be, but you are just gimping your own DPS, and Feral is there for DPS. As a Feral, you are rarely focused in arena.
Yeah, so you take those 2, you've still got 1 left. Again, bang. You might want to put it in Primal Tenacity for the 5% stun and resist. Stun resist and fear resist. So I think it's really difficult to actually sit here and say these are the this is the cookie cutter build. There's not a cookie cutter build. This what we've got here. I would say is this is the tanking talents that you need, and then whatever else you want. And just go briefly touching on Natural Shapeshifter for Griff. Probably not. Because you're not regularly power shifting as a bear. Well, you don't want to be, because the majority of the time you're going to be so high on rage, you're not going to want to come out a bear. The only time you're going to do that is like for a health pot power shift macro, or whatever pot you're using or whatever you need to use. But Natural Shapeshifter would be more if you. But again. So all right, let's take it back. So you've got 6 points right now. So are you going to be needed to DPS? So this is you tank. You're tanking. This is your tanking build. Are you not always tanking? Is there 4 or 5 bosses in a raid that you don't need to tank? Then boom, you take 3 in Natural Shapeshifter, get Savage Fury. You got 1 point left. Where do you want to put it? Primal Tenacity if you want. Maybe pick up Nature's Grasp because that's like PvP. Now you've actually got. Now you've got the ability to DPS in tier 4 and 5. I'm talking, because we haven't got armor pen yet. So if you don't know what we're talking about when it comes to the armor pen stuff, watch the Feral DPS video that Toren educated us on. So you will want Feral Aggression later on, because you're going to want it for the Ferocious Bite damage, not the demo raw damage. So then it would change a little bit. But I think tier 4 and 5, where you're just focusing on rip, this build now could be perfectly viable. This means you can tank in PvP, you can tank in PvE, you can DPS in PvE, just as good as a Feral DPS Druid who's focusing purely on PvE. And you could potentially do some PvP because you've got Nurturing Instincts, which is big in PvP. You know, you've got Nature's Grasp, which is nice. All right, you've not got Brutal Impact. That's not great. But it's, you know, it's... You get what I mean. We could sit here all day saying, well, you can do this build, you can do that build. But ultimately, where did I put those 2 points? But ultimately, this is how you tank. And then you've got 6 points to put wherever you want for whatever suits your playstyle. All right, so once we've covered talents, we then just went on just to have a quick chat about new abilities that had been added to Druids in TBC. Obviously, like I say, check the Feral DPS video. We go into a lot more sort of detail around everything. You know, we tried to keep this one fairly short because, you know, a lot of it carries over from Feral DPS to Feral Tank, obviously. But we'll see what Toren's got to say about new abilities. So what about new abilities? I'm not even going to put them on screen for this because, again, we've touched on most of them, and off the top of my head, new ability-wise, specifically for Feral Tanks, I can only really think of 2.
Yeah, there is basically, the flight form, Life Bloom, there is nothing for the tank. There is Lacerate, which you can stack up to 5 times, and it deals periodic damage. It also counts as a bleed, so it benefits from your mangle. And then the funny thing about this Lacerate is it gives a lot of threat, but it's like a static threat that it doesn't matter what kind of gear you have, and you're still gonna get a lot of threat out of it. But the multiplier of it from your threat, from your gear, is not that great because only like 0.4%, 0.5 multiplier of your damage translates into threat from Lacerate. So that means Lacerate is really godlike in tier 4, tier 5. But later on, when your swipe does more than 300 damage per swipe, well, like per one target, swipe is better in threat. But that's deep into tier 6. Other than that, you just want to keep the Lacerate on the bosses and just renew it all the time you can.
But then the other one for me, it really is sort of Cyclone. I know you're not going to use it a lot as a tank, but, you know, just something that you might use. And maybe Life Bloom is worth touching on slightly because you might Life Bloom, you know, you might regrowth Life Bloom, run in. So, okay, talents, new abilities. As I say, there's not really a lot to talk about when it comes to new abilities. Just really quickly, just to list them, just for the sake of the YouTube video. So, Flight Form / Swift Flight Form, when you can get it.
Yeah, exactly. Life Bloom, Maim, which is for Get Form, we already talked about before. It's like a combination of Eviscerate and Gouge. Then you get Lacerate, we talked about, and Cyclone, which is God Spell in PvP, sometimes used in PvE. And I think that's all of it. Can't remember of anything else.
Yeah, all of it outside of talents anyway. So yeah,
exactly.
We can move on. Cool. Okay, so let's we'll crack back on with so key add-ons. Is there any key add-ons that you advise our feral tanks to use?
So we definitely want to have the DBM or something with announces like the spells, cooldowns, whatnot, and then diamond threat meter or any sort of threat meter. Other than that, there is nothing that you like really necessarily need. Like you can of course have something, as Scott mentioned in the Feral DPS, something to keep track of if the Fairy Fire is up, and if it's not, then scream at your Boomkin, or if your Mangle is up and Lacerate. And then of course like Demo Shout if you are using that one.
Yeah, I mean I mine for a tank. And actually taking a little bit of learnings from TSW, he threw out some really useful ones. I mean, I'm not going to go for any quality of life add-ons, not like, you know, item rack or anything like that, where, you know, it just makes life easier or more convenient. But certainly from a tanking perspective, I think definitely having a clean UI, you know, being able to see everything where you need to see it. So power auras, weak auras, whatever, you know, to track when you have a specific big debuff on you that you need to be aware of, or, you know, debuffs that you need to keep on the target that you need to be aware of. There's, you know, nothing better than weak auras or anything like that for that. Tidy plates is a good one that was just said in chat. There's unfortunately not a tidy plates that I can find on private servers, but obviously we know it will be there in classic. At the moment I'm using a really poor version of it, which is not ideal. But yeah, just general visibility of the things you need to see. And I think tracking things like taunt rather than looking down on your bar is big. you know, if I was to show you, I'm going to struggle showing you due to the way taunt works on a paladin, but on my paladin, you know, it's massive. If my taunt's on cooldown, I can't help but see it. And I think, yeah, tracking things like Fairy Fire and everything. If you watch the Feral DPS video, yeah, you'll see how I play, how I have everything set up. I have the important things that I need to see quite prevalent, and then trying to make things that are not normally audible is a big one for me as well. So, for a tank, knowing from a sound, from a weak aura, that your health has gone to a certain percentage, so you know that you can use something, do something to help out, whether it's friendship regen. Bit more lackluster on a feral tank, I'll be honest with you, just because there's not that much you can do other than clench your bum cheeks and just hope that you don't die. But yeah, there's not really a lot, I would say, for a feral tank, Toren. I'd agree with you. Some sort of threat meter, some sort of boss add-on to no timers and stuff, and then just a way that you track the things that you need to track.
Yeah, I think Blizzard UI is kind of also doing the job, because you can get the raid frames in with just basic Blizzard UI, and you can see mana of all your raid or just the group you want to see. And as a bear tank, you're gonna do it often, that you're gonna check the healer of some of your priest, and when he's low, just innervate him. So you want to have that, and then I think it's the basic keybind for that is V or Shift V. One of them is for friendly nameplates and the other one is for enemy nameplates. You want to have that one up and see how the mobs are moving, if they're moving away from you, or how many HP they have, how many threats or stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not a lover of the Blizzard nameplates, if I'm honest. As in, I actually choose. I get shouted at on the stream all the time for not having nameplates on. They can't now, because I actually found some form of nameplates that I like on private servers, but I can't stand the Blizzard ones. Tidy plates is just so good. I've sort of been spoiled. I've just got used to it now. Druid Bar, if you're not main tank and spending some of the fighting cat, making sure you have enough mana to power shift in between is enough. Yeah, so probably seeing your mana bar even as a tank is probably useful. I mean, again, if I sort of just switch to mine briefly, you'll see that I can see my mana. So if I did want to, power shifting cat, I've got things set up. But if I wanted to power shift, I can see my mana go down. And then if I wanted to go back in, let me power shift again off the GCD. I know I've got enough to go back in bear. So yeah, I think having the mana bar add-on still definitely helps even as a tank. This is the big one. So stat priority. So what's the stat priority for a tank? And anything you need to do in game.
That's something what I told you that I wanna speak a lot about. So yeah, stat priority. Now, as I already mentioned about hit rating, 6% is usually perfect, something what you want to keep at all times, and 6% because 3% you get from a boomkin. If you don't have a boomkin, you want to have a set that also gives you that additional 3% hit, but it's up to your raid leader. You should have a boomkin in your raid. Good thing about this, anything above is wasted because you don't have a second weapon offhand, so you cannot really get a miss. And anything below is a risk if there is some fights that you need to taunt juggle between two tanks, so best effectiveness is to get something above from 6%, so that means 6.01% of the hit rating. That's your perfect spot. Also, other thing I would like to mention, in TBC we get rating instead of flat out percentage. I never really looked at rating, so I cannot give you the value in rating, but I can always give you the value in percentage. So always look for that, and I'm sorry for that if you liked rating more. Percentage is something what I was always focusing on.
Well, another add-on, going back briefly, there is an add-on which actually, Warrior TSW educated me on, which is Rating Buster. So it actually puts the percentages on your gears, on your gear as a value. So yeah, rating, it converts the rating to percentage. If you prefer percentages, might be worth checking out.
Yeah, exactly. So a big thing what you always have to have as a druid is crit immunity cap, which 3% you get from the talent, survival of the fittest, and you want 5.6 in total. So that means you need to get 2.6% from your talents. And something what a lot of druids doesn't really like understand from the beginning, you don't need to get defense rating and like get the crit immunity from it or resilience rating. You can just combine both of them and just add up the values together. So for example, you can have like 1% crit immunity, crit reduction from the defense rating, and then have 1.6% from your resilience, and that is completely fine and it's gonna work out for you. So you always want to look out for that, to have like that's also something big for a druid. You never wanna compare two pieces just comparing to each other. You always want to compare your whole set as a gear, because if I could ask Scott to show me the two items I talked about before, and they are from Sunwell Plateau. It's the pants, the Immortal Knight and Immortal Beast. So this one you're showing right now is the Immortal Beast, so that's the Feral Tank pants, and they're giving way more armor, they're giving way more agility, well not agility, agility is the same, but way more stamina, and no other, well the other stats are pretty comparable. So this is like the Feral Tanking one, but in the meanwhile it's not a BIS leggings, because in your BIS set gear you want to use the other pants, which are the pants over like leggings of the Immortal Knight, which are giving less stamina, less armor, but they are giving 32 hit rating, and that is the reason why you want to get them, because that's like the best piece of gear you can get a hit cap on. And that's the thing, you cannot look at the piece and compare two pieces. Like you cannot compare one neck to another neck and see, well, this one gives me more tanking stats, so I want to get this one. You need to take it as a whole set. So that is something what every single druid should keep in mind. Yeah, and that's the next point I would like to ask you to do. If you could get your druid naked.
At least buy me dinner first.
Yeah, I'll order you for a cleft of ribs later on.
Lovely.
So first thing is that the armor, there is also something what the priest and resto shamans and holy priests do. If they crit heal on you, you get 20% more armor, which is something what's gonna help you in later stages. But I also want to show you something kind of crucial about armor, and that is it's same thing as armor penetration, and I already mentioned in Feral Kit DPS video, where we're gonna talk more about it in the Feral Tank stuff, because of how armor works. And the bear form, the druid is the only tank that can get the crit armor mitigation cap, which is 75%, and you get that at 35 point something K armor for 73 level mobs. So that means all the bosses. For like same level mobs, which there is not that many of them in like instances, but for like a 70 level, it's like 31k something armor to be 75%. But since you're fighting against the bosses which are higher level, which they are 73 level, you need a bit more armor to be 75%. So now that Scottejaye is naked, you can make fun of him. No. If I could ask you to, now if you show your armor value, how many percentage of mitigation you have there?
I just wanted to put it out there. I left the tab on because I didn't want you seeing my Toren nipples. That was. I didn't want to get banned. I mean, don't get me wrong. On this stream later on when I'm drunk, I'll probably end up naked properly. But how much armor have I got? I've got 132 armor.
Yeah, that's from like your base stats. And how much percentage of reduction is that?
1.23%.
Okay, and now if I can ask you to put any kind of piece you want, which has like, for example, a lot of armor.
Okay, go on with
like I don't know if you have Earth Warden or something which has a lot of armor.
I've not got Earth Warden, but I've put heavy cleft tooth vest on.
All right,
Griff,
no problem.
Don't make me laugh.
And now if you check how much armor, like actual armor it gives you, and how many percentage of reduction it gave you.
So I'm now on 682 armor with 6.0% armor reduction, physical reduction.
6.0? Okay, so that means
6.07 if you want specifics.
Yeah, okay. So that means you got like what 500 armor and you got 5% of reduction on your mitigation, right?
Yep, this is not in bear form though.
It is not needed because I can make a point even without a bear form. Bear form is just gonna multiply the difference we're gonna get. So, and now if I can ask you to put all of your gear instead of the and except of the chest, like all the gear you have and not a chest.
All right. Yeah, done.
And now what I'm getting with this is now you can see how many armor you have and how many reduction you get without the chest, with full gear except the chest.
So I've now got 2,720 armor.
Okay, and how many percentage is that, please?
20.49.
Okay, and now please put the chest back. So you have like completely your full gear, nothing is missing out. And now the difference again should be like 500 armor because of how much armor does the chest give you and how many percentage of reduction you have right now.
23.65.
Okay, so first time we had 0 gear and we got 1.2% reduction. We put a chest on and we get 6% reduction, so that means 4.8% out of the chest. And now that we have all of the gear up and we put the chest on, we get without the chest we get 20.49% reduction, and when we put the chest it's 23.6, so that means 2.11% difference. So that means more armor you have, the less value it gives. That's the diminishing returns, and armor is something what's the highest thing. The diminishing returns there are just completely insane, and that's the difference. If you have like more armor, now we are in human form, so the difference is not that big. In bear form it would be even marginal. It would not be a difference of 5% and 3%. It would be something more of a 3.7 multiplier, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that higher the difference would be. So that's the thing. You want to get armor definitely, but I would not prioritize to get a armor cap over other stats, because when you get to the point that you are armor capped and you are close to it, you need to get like 5k armor to get the 1% or the last percent, and that is just really huge because you need to itemize your gear that much towards armor, and you get so little difference. You get like 1% and you need to invest so much armor in it.
Yeah, whereas you could get more threat, more stamina, more gem sockets, more. Yeah, you could prioritize and get more out of the like 5,000 worth of armor. You could be prioritizing, which I would say probably number one would be threat, wouldn't it?
Yes, I would. Okay, so that's the next thing I can mention, and that's agility. In the early phases, as the Scots Druid is right now, the tier 4 and later in tier 5, the agility is really good, but it's not that great. But when you come to tier 6, agility becomes the best stat ever. Because first off, it benefits from Blessing of Kings. Second off, it also benefits from your like Survival of the Fittest and other talents. And now that thing means the more agility you get, more threat you have, more crit you have, and also you get shit ton of dodge. And that's also the reason why druids are so good tanks, because they can get a way more avoidance than any other tank. The other tanks can get like a block from your spell, but the avoidance of the druid is just the highest from the game. None of the other classes can get as much avoidance as the druid. And I would also mention that in the last part of the guide, but that's unavoidability, which means you reach the point where you cannot be hit. But more on that later. Okay, so moving on. Now let's talk about HP and stamina. And early phases when you cannot get as many stats because, well, the gear is, well, not that good. Even if it's like BIS in tier 4, you cannot get as much gear, so you cannot reach like extreme heights of avoidance. So you want to be more of a sponge, so that means a lot of HP to compensate for the crushing blows. But with HP, I would say the general rule I follow, which a lot of people might not agree with it, but I think it's the best, is that with HP you should focus on getting certain point where you cannot get two-shotted, and then you should completely stop getting HP at all. Because the thing is, like for example, we have 20k HP, and the tank, the boss hits for 10k per hit. That means you get 2 hits, and then you get 2 hits and you are dead. But let's say that you get 21k HP, so that means 1000 more. So that means you can get 2 hits and then you are left with 1000 HP and you are still alive, and then healers needs to catch up to get you back on. So now you would need to get another 9k HP to survive another hit, and that's quite a lot. Instead, you can get like more dodge, and that means you can like completely ignore another hit and get no damage whatsoever. So HP is good, but only to a certain point where you are not getting really instant killed. So that means like some spells or some parry haste stuff cannot kill you anymore.
Yeah, where it gets to a point where it's sort of just not required. You know, as in, again, I've got to go back to last night because last night was awful. Hated it, every second of it. Can't wait to go back tomorrow. You know, I clearly need more health. You know, as a prop paladin on this server, I need more health. Whereas Hoyt's damage, incoming damage on his feral druid was smooth. It was smooth. His health was never dipping below, let's say, 40%, 50%, which would say actually he doesn't need all the health that he's got. He could maybe ungem stamina, put more agility in there for some more dodge, more attack power, more threat. I mean, is that sort of what you're going down? So you need to judge it on your own gear, your own sort of content that you're actually doing at the time.
Yeah, exactly. You always need to look at your gear as a whole. Like if your whole gear doesn't have like enough stamina, then the piece you're looking at can have like awesome stats, but if it like puts you under the limit of HP you want to have, then it's not a good piece. It's not a piece you want. Also, difference that people sometimes misunderstood is the avoidance and mitigation. Mitigation is something what you receive and you just wanna lower it, and avoidance is something what you just completely avoid. You're not getting any damage at all. So avoidance is good. At the very beginning, at the early stages, you cannot get as much of it, so it's not as good. But in later phases, in tier 6, even in Sunwell, you can get a lot of dodge, and that is gonna be your bread and butter. So that means you're gonna get just that less damage over other tanks.
Is that have we covered the stats? So in order then, if we were to start early on, you know, because you got to remember the people who are going to be watching this are going to be the people who are either preparing for TBC or when TBC first launches, they're looking for a guide. You know, so we need to try and stay like focused early. What is the priority? If you was to go in order of stats, bearing in mind expertise you just can't really get. There's like one ring that I can think of, one pair of legs that I can think of where you can get expertise. I can't think of anything outside of that.
The Earth Warden is giving expertise as far as I know.
Earth Warden. Sorry, I thought you said on roll. Sorry, yeah. And Earth Warden. Yeah, so Earth Warden, and then I was thinking about the cleft-eyed legs or whatever they're called, which gives hit and expertise, and then the Shapeshifter's Signet.
Signet, yeah, from Lower City Reputation, yeah.
Yeah, outside of those three, then, yeah, I can't think of any others. But so, maybe excluding that, what are we... pants, ring, yeah, and Calfire said he's the same, pants, ring, and weapon. So what would you say is the order that they should prioritise their stats in?
Crit immunity, the first thing, so that means 2.6% of crit immunity. You can go into normals when you are not crit immune. It is a gamble, but you can still manage it, especially if like you know that the healer is kind of good and it's not like some random pack. You can skip that maybe for normals, maybe some of the easy heroics, but that's the first priority you should aim for. After that, you should wanna get some some sort of 27k armor at least, because that's kind of a value that you need to have. And when you get the buff from the priest or shaman, that means he crits heal on you and you get 25% more of your armor. That's gonna put you really close to the armor cap, that means like 75%. So like you aim for 27k armor, then you aim for your HP, so your HP is like close to 20k. When you reach 20k HP, you completely want to avoid HP after that point. Well, you know, something above 20k HP. And after that, you just completely go for agility, hit, and expertise. Though I would say agility is like maybe a little higher priority because it gives you armor, attack power, dodge, and crit. And it gives you, as I said, the conversion of it is really great. And then, of course, hit rating and expertise to be able to taunt and to be able to get your hits done and not be missing, parrying, or dodging. And after that, the actual dodge rating is not that good. You definitely want to prioritize agility over dodge rating, but that's also something you can get.
What about things like, it's slightly off topic, but, well, it's not off topic, it's on topic to be fair, but, you know, like Morrow's Lucky Pocket Watch. You know, it gives a ton of dodge on use. Is that useful, or are you going to have so much dodge anyway that proc's not lost, but just not as strong?
Oh, well, in the early phases, it's definitely not lost, and it's a really great trinket. It's really good for a long period of time, and you actually want to keep it during the whole expansion, just because the druid is the kind of tank. Well, and it's kind of as every tank, you want to switch the gear according to the boss fight. Like in Sunwell Plateau, there are 6 bosses, and on every single boss you're gonna use a slightly or even a higher change of your gear. Maybe one more item I would like to just a little touch on is, as I mentioned, I was playing mostly on Sunwell Plateau and like getting real min-maxing there with like all the best gear, best stats, and everything. The Cloak of Unforgivable Sins, which drops off of KJ, is a complete DPS cloak. It has agility, it has haste, it has attack power, yellow socket, and some stamina. So that means all DPS stats, no tanking stat. But because of it, it had so much agility, and then it has yellow socket. That means it is the best cloak you can have, and it's in a base list for your Feral Tank. Just because of how the gear works. You don't really need the HP, you don't really need the armor, so you prioritize the agility, that means a lot of avoidance, and then of course some TPS. And also maybe one more thing I would mention is in High Gel you get the epic gems. That means you are not anymore using the rare gems and you are using the epic ones. And people think that they're like the best in slot, but there is one gem that is really good, and it's also in like the piece list of the end game, and that is one which gives, I think it's 5 defense rating and 4 agility, and it's a rare ring, so it's worse quality than the epic ones, and it's still better to be put into your cloak, just because it gives it fits yellow socket, so you get the bonus, and it also the highest avoidance you can get. And maybe one last thing, there is also difference what to go Alder or Scryer as a Feral Tank, and there is a no clear answer to that, because Elder has one thing, and that means if you combine all the stats that the Alder Ancient gives you, it's higher avoidance in total than the Scryer, but the Scryer thing has that it gives more defense rating, and that means you can like dampen defense rating on other pieces. So if you want to go for like a real base Feral Tank in Sunwell Plateau, you want to be Scryer, even though the Ancient gives less avoidance in total, but it's better just because of how the values add up.
Okay, all right. So consumables, key consumables for for a tank. I mean, I can't imagine there's too many, but
no, there is not too many, and there is also not that many that are like completely weird. There's just like a handful of them. So the no-brainer is the agility elixir, which gives some agility and some critical rating, just because, as I said, agility is that good. Then that's for the battle elixir. For the guardian elixir, you have a couple of options. First one is elixir of resilience. which gives, I think, 30 resilience. It's good because if you rely on it and you need like to reach the 2.6% crit with that elixir, it's actually good elixir for that. The other options are not that game changing, so that's why the elixir of resilience might be really worthwhile, because the other elixirs give, I think, 550 armor, but that isn't multiplied from the bear form, so it's just flat out 550. And as you could see, 550 does make difference, but not as a huge difference when you are bear tank, because you have that much armor and the diminishing returns are that shitty for you. It's something that can help you. The other thing is the Major Fortitude elixir, or some sort of similar name. I think it gives like 250 HP. Again, it's something, but it's not that good. So that's the option. And the last one is a little bit tricky one, and that's Gift of the Arthas, which increases your shadow resistance. Well, screw that. But it puts a debuff on the boss who is hitting you to receive more damage, and that I think it's 8 attack weapon damage when you hit him, and that it's not only for you but for a whole raid. So there's some elixir that is not really helping you with protecting you, but it increases your raid DPS, and that's something good. As a tank, you bring more raid DPS. What not to like about it? So that's the elixirs. Then for the buff food, you have pretty much.
So before we move on to buff food, sorry mate. So would you not use a flask as a feral tank?
Oh yeah, right. There is also flask, and that gives 500 HP and I think 15 defense rating. And
I want to say 10. I might be wrong. For some, I feel like I want to say 10.
It could be 10, so that's even worse. And that is good if you're wiping a lot and you're poor. But if you are wiping, and especially if you are wiping because you are dying as a tank, then you should definitely get the agility elixir and other guardian elixir, which suits you the best, like either armor, either resilience, or the HP one. It's just better value to get out of these two than from the flask. Flask is not that good. Flask is only if you want to like be cheap.
Yeah, I had a feeling that was going to be the reason, but again, you know, I just thought I'd put it out there.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I think that covers the flasks and elixirs. Thank you for mentioning. I completely forgot the flask because it's not that good, but it's definitely an option.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, food. Sorry, carry on.
Buff food. You have 3 options. I said it wrong before. It's not 2, but it's 3 options. First one is stamina, and you can get either 20 stamina or 30 stamina. But the 30 stamina might be in later patches. I'm not sure. But it's the stamina food. Then it's agility food, and the last one is hit rating food. Depends what you need. If you don't need HP and you don't need hit rating, then of course agility is the best one. If you miss the hit rating just to like reach the 6%, then hit rating is the one. And if you feel that HP is something you need, then you just go for stamina. It's really something which you just completely tailor towards the gear you have.
All right, let's move on to like rotation or priority system. Again, I appreciate this is not going to take long because there's not that many buttons to press, but...
Exactly. So if you don't have issues with rage, so that means you're not off tanking, you're gonna see on the boss fight. If you see that you are rage starved and you cannot use mangle, then you should stop using maul. If it's not the case, and most of the time it won't be the case, you should just press spamming maul all the time. You can also just macro it, so you use like you get maul on every single spell of yours. So you are like pressing it with the other spell, so you can like get one little. You can get less keybinds. But then you keep mangle on cooldown, which is 6 seconds. You want to keep that all the time. You want to use it off cooldown all the time. Then in lower tiers, in tier 4, tier 5, you also want to keep lacerate on a single target. Even if it's multiple targets, like for example 2 targets, you might want to keep the lacerate on all of them. It depends on time, how much time you have to get threat. If you have quite a bit time, then you want to do lacerate on all of them to just keep increasing your threat that much high. And as I mentioned, Lacerate is good that it gives static threat, which is at the beginning of the game really good because it's a lot. But later on, it doesn't stack well with gear, and Swipe actually does stack well with gear. And when you reach the point that your Swipe deals more than 300 damage per one target, the Swipe is better, and Lacerate usually moves completely down, and you can not completely ignore it, but Lacerate is just not that good anymore. And yes, so you would go Maul, Mangle on cooldown, then you go Lacerate to get 5 stacks, and after 5 stacks are done, you pretty much then just swipe. Again, it depends. If your gear is not that good, then even reapplying Lacerate all the time might be better, because as I said, the static threat. But if your gear is better, then swipe is just gets better and better. Yeah, the frenzied region drains a lot of rage. Normally, if the boss is hitting you, it's not gonna be issue. You can have frenzied region and still continuing your rotation normally, still using Maul, frenzied region, and all other spells at the same time. Even when you are like targeted, that's not a problem. That the thing with the frenzied region is that it doesn't heal a lot, so it's not that good. And it's not gonna like, oh shit button, I'm dying and I need to pop like last time. This is something what heals you over time, and I think it heals you for like 250 per 1 or 2 seconds. So it's something like smoothing out, and so you are not getting like completely obliterated, that you get like hit for 50% of your HP and you are not getting anything back. The frenzy region is just like slowly getting you back up, so other healers have more time to react. The other cooldown we already mentioned is Barkskin, which you cannot use in bear form. But if, like for example in Brutalus, you are constantly taunt swapping, like each 30 seconds, just before you are about to taunt, you can hop on into your human form, pop a Barkskin, and then you taunt, and then you can enjoy 10 seconds of 20% reduction, plus your bear form in, after you taunted. So that's something good you can use, and that's, I would say, the hidden gem. But you can also get a macro which cancels your form, gets the consumable up on you, and then you hop back into bear form, and that happens in a split of a second. Sometimes you might get screwed and you get locked out of the form, or you get hit like in between of it. But you can pop health stones, you can pop the nightmare seed, which is giving you like some HP bonus, or you can also pop the HP potion, haste potions.
Okay, so how like talk me through a pull, because this is quite an important one, and someone in chat said, how do you pull without charge? So just talk me through how do you pull one single target, and then we'll go on to AoE.
You mean how do I pull it? Okay, so Fairy Fire first thing, or if you have time, you can do Fairy Fire and then hop into form, or like do Starfire, then like regroove, and by the time he is next to you, you are going to bear, so you get like the bonus thing stuff from that. And then you start with Maul, Mangle, and if it's low tier, you start lacerating every time the Mangle is on cooldown, and if it's not on cooldown, you use Mangle. If it's a higher tier, you open up with Maul and Mangle, keep Mangle spamming on cooldown, keep Maul all the time, and then swiping even on single target if you need like the snap threat.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how would you pull multi-mobs?
So like for example on Muru, you get the ads that are spawning each minute, and you get free mobs that you need to pick up. So that means you open up with swipes, because you need to get the threat on all 3 of them, and the DPS is actually a real DPS check. So the DPS go flat out, start DPSing, nuking and everything. So you need to just keep swiping. And actually that's where you keep Mangle not at the beginning, because you need to spend those global cooldowns on the swipes. So you wait with the Mangle for like after like 3rd or 4th swipe, and then you can Mangle for the first time, and then you just keep Maul and swiping and Mangle of cooldown. But that's one of the only times that you prioritize swipe even over Mangle, because you need equal threat on all 3 of them, because Warrior is gonna jump in and he's gonna start cleaving everything down. So you want to have the threat on all 3 of them.
I mean, what about starting in caster form? This might be a bit more of an early game thing, don't get me wrong, but maybe starting in caster form with Hurricane. If there was like 6-7 mobs, would you start with maybe hot yourself, then hurricane them all, and then as they start getting closer to you, bang straight in bear form? Or
Yeah, sure. That's definitely an option. You just need to keep in mind that the hurricane, when you place it on the ground, it pulls the mob and it gives damage after like half a second. Like you're gonna get the threat of it, like you're gonna pull with it, and the damage is gonna land slightly after it. So you might watch if they are not gonna like run out of it first before getting the first hit. But it is a possibility. I think I actually never pulled with Hurricane, but maybe if there is some option to do that, well, like why not? But I never did it, I think.
I was thinking more for dungeons, you know, where you've got a pack of mobs. You can now not exactly turn yourself into a prop paladin, but you know, being able to pull that big 5-6 pack in Shattered Halls, get that initial threat. Maybe you've already got, you know, you hot yourself, or you hurricane, then hot as they're running in. I don't know, maybe they're slowed by Frost Mage. I just think it could be. I'm not saying it's going to be what people do, but it definitely could work. I mean, I have actually done it, to be fair. I do it on Classic in places like Strat, Undead, if I'm tanking. Okay, guys, and that's pretty much it. So I feel like we covered everything from talents, consumables, rotation, stat priority. A really good discussion and demonstration on how armor suffers from diminishing returns. I will put some chapters on here so you can skip through to the bits that you want to see. But you've probably just sat and watched it all if you're listening to the outro. So I hope you enjoyed it. As I say, there is a lot more to discuss. There's a lot more that was discussed, should I say, which is in the full unedited version for members. That there's unavoidability talks on there and looking at logs from Sunwell Plateau, just tons. There's about an hour and a half cut out, but obviously I need to try and keep it fairly concise for the general public and the people who want those really long videos. Obviously, you know how you can see them. So make sure you like, subscribe, come check me out over on Twitch, streaming pretty much every night, sometimes twice a day actually. So I'll see you over on Twitch.